Hey, welcome to today's video. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jessie, and in today's video we are going to be talking about all the books that I read throughout the month of October. I'm going to be giving you all my thoughts and opinions on them and what my rating was and whether I would recommend them or not. We just have a few stats here. I read 9 books. It was 4,285 pages and my average rating was a 3.25. So a little lower average than what my previous months were, but I did have a couple books that I didn't like, which always brings the rating down a ton. The rest of them were pretty good though. So I will say only a couple that rotted the whole bunch. But getting right into it, I'm going to talk about this hefty book right here. This is it. I did not finish this. I am still not even halfway through. I've talked about this before on my channel. I started reading this in 2022, I believe October of 2022, and I never finished it. Didn't read any of it in 2023. I kept telling myself I was going to pick this up and read a little bit as I was going through my months and going through my other books, but it never happened. So this year I did. The very first day of October, I told myself that I was going to read a chapter a day, and these chapters are very long. They're around like 60 to 80 pages, and it was going to work out where if I read a chapter a day, it would only take me 19 or 20 days to finish this book. So I was like, okay, that's cool. It's very doable. Doesn't seem too bad at all. The first 4 days of October, I read one chapter each, and I read like 200 some pages of this, and then the next chapter was 80 some pages, and I kind of gave up. And I haven't picked it up since. So maybe in November I will continue this, but yeah, I'm still trucking along, guys. I don't know. I don't know. It's very intense. The writing is so much. There's just so much in here that I feel like doesn't need to be in here, but that's what this book is. Can't talk too much about it, but this is something that I read, and hopefully something that I will read and finish eventually. Moving on into actual books that I did finish, I'm going to talk about these two together. This is A Gathering of Shadows and then A Conjuring of Light. This is book 2 and this is book 3 in the Shades of Magic trilogy. I read the first one, which is A Darker Shade of Magic, last month, and I really enjoyed it. I did enjoy these two books, but it definitely took a turn that I didn't think we were going with the plot. Because in the first book we have Kel, who is this Antari. He's this magician that is very rare. He's one of the last of his kind in this world, and we're dealing with parallel London, so he's able to travel through 4 different Londons. Well, 3 technically. There's a London that has been shut off for centuries and nobody's really traveled to it. He ends up getting an artifact from this Black London that has been shut off, and he needs to return it there because it has this very intense magic that's going to ruin all the other Londons if it stays in his London. The first book, he's just trying to get it back to Black London. I think I was just thinking with the next 2 books that it was going to be some crazy intense disaster of a world or whatnot, but it really wasn't. The second book we got more of like a games or trials type of feel, and then the third book definitely did pick up back with the Black London and how it is affecting the other Londons, but it wasn't anything too intense, and I think I was just hoping for something intense. The third one jumped around so much between point of views. I swear every single character got a point of view, and the chapters were only a few pages long on average, so I didn't really feel like I could connect with the story or these characters in their point of views because it was just jumping around so much. And it's like as soon as something intense started happening, the chapter was only a few pages long, so then we just jumped to the next one, and I couldn't really let it simmer with me or sit with me. I just really wanted that. I wanted to feel that connection, and I just didn't get that from that book. I will say though, with this whole trilogy, I do like our main character. Kel is very unique. He has a really good backstory with himself and how independent he is and his family growing up and who he's connected to now. And I really like what he wants in his life. He's kind of trapped in his London and he can't really travel outside of his kingdom. He is part of royalty technically, and he just wants to get out into the world and see things. And then we have our other main character, Lila, who discovers something great about herself, and I really liked her. She was super independent, very fierce, such a strong fighter in person in general. I loved their character growth. The side characters were also great, so I really did enjoy this series. I just wish we had gotten more action, and I will say the ending of the last book was fantastic. It wrapped up so well. It was very satisfying, and I truly appreciated the way that this whole trilogy wrapped up, but I just wanted to connect to the story more. Book 2 I did end up giving a 4 stars, and then book 3 I'm giving a 3.5. Next up we have Firekeeper's Daughter. This was the book that I had on my TBR for the longest, so I'm glad that I finally read this. I really enjoyed this. So this one is about our main character, Donis, and she's part of this native tribe. They're living in the UP in Lake Superior, which I live in Michigan, and I've been to Lake Superior. My brother went to college there. I've been to Sault Ste. Marie a few times, so it was really nice to read about the places in this book and know what they're talking about and visualize it in my head. I love that. I love that I was able to connect with this book in that sort of way. We're focusing on Donis. She's going into college. She has a younger brother who's on the hockey team, and then she also played hockey growing up, and she can skate really well. So there's a lot of hockey going on in here, which makes sense because they're up north. But all of a sudden this new guy comes to this school, and he is on her brother's hockey team. Him and Donis kind of start forming this connection with each other, but he is keeping a lot of secrets, and this whole mystery breaks out. One of the students gets murdered, and then there's multiple murders throughout this book that we're trying to figure out what happened, who's behind it. Donna's actually kind of gets thrown into this undercover group of people who are trying to figure out what is going on. I don't want to give too much away because it's fun to find out. This is more of a mystery book, which I didn't really think it was going to go that way when I first started this, but I really enjoyed it. It was a nice mystery. Very shocking things happen. I had a lot of fun with this. I think it was well written. I would definitely recommend this if you have not read it yet or if you haven't heard about it. The author is from Michigan. She's also Native American, and I feel like you don't really hear about too many Native American authors. I ended up giving this one a 4 stars. The ending got pretty crazy. This too is very shocking to find out everything, and it was just a lot of fun. Now we have Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. This was in one of my vlogs. Do I remember what the vlog was called? Not really. What did I do in that vlog? I think it was my last week in my life. Yes, I think it was my last week in my life. So if you want to see more of my thoughts and my reactions as I read this book, definitely go check out that video. But oh boy, this was a fun one. This was very, I loved it. I really enjoyed this book a lot. Okay, but like, what's our main character's name? I don't remember. This follows our main character, Lilia, and then we have our male main character, Deverick, who is a professor at this school called Drucadia. Drucadia University on Drucadia Island. So this is set off the coast of Maine, I believe, a little ways. Not a lot of people are there. It's an Ivy League college, and Lilia is actually going to school on the mainland. She gets an opportunity to go to Drucadia to study, and she really wants to study there because of this certain illness that affected her mother in the past. They start off with this book with finding out what happened to her mother, and we get that little flashback scene. And basically her mother dealt with this illness where her body's just being taken over by worms. It's very gross. She's basically just throwing up worms and they're coming out of her body, and Lilia has no idea what's going on. Nobody else in this world knows what is happening, and nobody else saw the worms besides Lilia. So Lilia is then very confused, and she thinks she's hallucinating or something. So then when she's at the school that she's currently at, there was a project to write a paper about an illness. You had to make up an illness. She made up this one because nobody else saw the worms. So she ends up writing the paper, and her professor sends her to Drucadia Island because this illness is in fact real, and it originates from Drucadia Island. There's a lot going on with the school and whatnot. This also has a romance subplot, so it's professor-student. If that's not your cup of tea, I promise it's not bad. It doesn't seem bad at all. Both of our characters are very mature. I really liked our main character, Lilia. She was very independent, very fierce. I loved her character growth. She's someone who is looking out for her sister a lot, and she's a very sweet person, and she's willing to do whatever she needs to do to make a better life for herself and her sister. So I really enjoyed her as a character, and I also enjoyed Deverick. He's very sketchy at some points. You don't really know how he's going to end up or if he's actually going to be a good person or not. There's so many mystery elements going on in here that come up that are very shocking. It's just super fun. I really enjoyed this book. I would definitely recommend it if you want a gothic academia novel. The vibes in this are absolutely eerie, mysterious, dark, so definitely recommend. But this whole time Lilia is just going to this college to try to find the cure for this illness because she just wants to figure out what happened to her mom and she wants to prevent it for other people. I did give this one a 4.5 stars. I will say the only thing that I didn't like about this was how quickly the ending seemed to wrap up. This is a pretty long book. It's over 500 pages. The author said that she wanted to have this as a standalone, so that's why it's a little longer, but I honestly would have wished that we got a duology or even a series out of this, just because the ending seemed a little quickly wrapped up, and I wish we would have gotten more on the school. The romance was definitely wrapped up because I feel like at a certain point it started focusing on the romance more than like the science or the school aspects of the plot, but I wish we had gotten more on the school because there's so much that happens, and I feel like there could be so much more information on the history of the school and more of like the secret little societies that were coming up. Then we have Stay With Me by Nicole Fiorina. This was a book that was also on my TBR for a very long time. I just kept pushing it off. This is a romance novel focusing on our main character Mia. She's 19 and she is a very troublesome, I don't want to say kid because she's an adult now. She gets sent to this school, this reformatory college, to try to make her a better person and to stop doing all the bad things that she did in her past. She just doesn't care at all. I did not feel character growth with this at all. We're dealing with somebody who did a lot of bad things in their past, so we're hoping that they can focus on being a better person, but I just don't really feel like we got that. This is romance focused. We're dealing with Mia and Ali, and it's kind of written to where they are meant for each other or they're soulmates, but I just did not feel that at all with this book. It seemed like it happened very, very fast. There were also other characters that affected everybody's relationship a lot, and I just didn't like that. The writing just wasn't my favorite either. I didn't see any growth throughout the story at all, and that's what I hope for when I read a story, especially if we're dealing with a character who has a bad past and needs to grow as a person. And since she was at a school, there were these like group therapy sessions. There were a lot of students in that group, and I just felt like they were very unprofessional. Like they were written in a weird way for being at a school trying to help students create a better life for themselves. That part just felt really off to me. The person running these sessions, I don't know if it was a teacher or just an advisor of some sort, it was very unprofessional in the way that they were saying things, or the things that they were doing in these sessions just did not seem like it would benefit these kids at all. I did end up giving this a 1 star. I really thought I was gonna like this just based off the back of the book and what it was about, but I just did not. These next 3 books that I'm talking about are in my fall vlog, which went up last week, so if you want to go check out that video, I'll have more of my thoughts in there. The first one that I read in that video was Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is a young adult mystery series, academia focused. It was fun. It was okay. I don't feel like anything crazy happened in this. It was a great start to a series. I definitely think the rest of the books are going to get better, and I am interested in reading the rest of the books. I finished this one and I would like to pick up the rest of them fairly quickly. We're dealing with our main character Stevie, and there was this whole thing that went on with this school in the past where the founder of the school, his wife and daughter ended up getting kidnapped. It was kind of known that like the mystery was solved, but it really wasn't. We still don't know who did that. So Stevie Bell is someone who really likes crime and those stories. When she gets to go to this academy, she hopes that she can discover those past secrets and kind of solve that mystery herself. But when she goes back to this academy, everything from the past gets brought up again, and she's working on this new mystery with herself and this other student. Something tragic happens to them, and it's just kind of chaos. Obviously with a mystery novel, don't want to give away too much. I did like the characters. There are some characters who seem very sketchy to me, so I'm interested to see how it goes with them or who they turn out to be. But yeah, not too much to say about this one. Just thought it was good. Would still recommend it. And then we had Business Casual by B.K. Borison. This is the last book in the Love Late Farm series. This book is fall themed. It's set in the fall. The main thing about this book is that I wish we had gotten more of a fall setting. There was very little talk about this harvest festival happening, but I wish it took up more of the book, just because the series is kind of marketed as a seasonal series where each book takes place in a different season. So I was a little disappointed that we didn't get more of a fall vibe from this book, but I still really like this. It's my favorite of the series so far. We're dealing with our main characters, Nova and Charlie. This is their romance. Nova is opening this tattoo studio in this small town called Inglewild, and Charlie's actually from New York, but he has a relation to another character in this book that I'm not going to give away because it's talked about in the first book, and it's something that comes up that you don't know when you start reading that book. So he kind of goes back and forth from New York to Inglewild every so often, and him and Nova just have this friendship with each other. It just grows throughout this book because he has to stay there for a month and kind of run the farm for a little bit, so they obviously grow their connection even further while he's there for a while. I really like them too. They were super funny. Their humor was something that I really enjoyed. I think they're great people. I really liked how their romance and their issues were just between them two. I feel like a lot of romance novels, there's other characters that come into play that kind of affect their relationship, and it's really frustrating to read about that because those other characters don't have anything to do with their relationship, but it's just causing conflicts within the couple. But this one did not do that, and I really appreciated that. It was just their own issues with themselves and the situation that they were in and that they put themselves in. They were able to work together and get themselves out of it. The only thing about this one, I do feel like it was a little cringy at some points. I'm not someone who likes nicknames in books unless it works for me, but this one did not at all. And especially if a nickname is said constantly, it just is so, I don't know, it's a little gross to me. It threw me off a little bit. So not too much that I didn't like about this. I really liked how it wrapped up, not only with themselves as a couple, but with the whole series and this small town and all the other characters. This is a very good series for a found family in a small town romance if you are looking for something like that. So definitely recommend this series. And the last book I read for that fall themed video was Dreadful by Caitlin Rosakis. This is supposed to be a comedic fantasy. I definitely feel like this was a cozy fantasy, but I just didn't enjoy this one either. This was a book that I picked up just because of the cover and the sprayed edges. Sometimes you gotta do that. Sometimes you just have to pick up a book because it's pretty. The plot of this is that our main character Gav wakes up and he has no idea who he is. He has no memory whatsoever. He's freaking out a little bit, but everybody in this castle that he lived in is telling him that he is an evil wizard and that he was a terrible person in the past. He's like killing all these little goblins if they do something wrong. So he's just apparently a really bad person, but when he wakes up from whatever happened to him, he doesn't feel like a bad person. He actually is a really good person. So this whole story is kind of about how past issues affect you and can turn you in a way that is not good. You just really have to not let yourself turn into a bad person because of what has happened in your past. I definitely think the message was there in this book, but we didn't get a lot of backstory, or we didn't get really any backstory at all on Gav himself and what made him the way that he is. I didn't really like this. I didn't think that the plot was really there. I don't think it was planned out too much. I don't really feel like too much happened. He has this princess locked up in there, so we're curious about that the whole time. There's other wizards involved too. We get that little story, but I honestly was only intrigued for one chapter, maybe towards the end of the book. Unfortunately, this one wasn't for me. I wasn't able to connect with the writing or the characters in this. I ended up giving this one a 2 stars. Last but not least, if you watch my November TBR video, I did have this book on my November TBR. I finished Dreadful on the 29th of October, I believe, and then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna start one of my books on my November TBR because I'm most likely not gonna read it in 2 days. Well, I did read it in 2 days. This is Betting on You by Lynn Painter. I finished this on Halloween, actually. This is a YA romance. We're talking about Charlie and Bailey. They both are dealing with divorced parents, so they have that connection with each other. The beginning of this book focuses 3 years before our present day, where Charlie and Bailey first went into each other, and They connect in that moment with their whole divorced parent situation. Charlie is used to his parents being divorced at this point, and Bailey is just coming fresh out of her parents' divorce. So she is traveling to Nebraska, and Charlie is also traveling to Nebraska. They get stuck on a plane together. So they have their little first meet cute there, but it honestly isn't really a meet cute because they don't like each other. They think each other is very annoying, which I'm not gonna lie, they were very annoying. As a reader, I was like, these two, I hate them. I'm just kidding, I didn't hate them, but they were a little frustrating to read about, and what they were saying was just crazy, but they were young. And then you get the present day where they actually have to deal with each other. They're in each other's lives now. They work together at this hotel water park type thing. Charlie doesn't believe that guys and girls can be friends without there being something more there. I will say that that whole thing, we got his opinion on that in their first meeting, and it's like, okay, he's young, he thinks that, whatever. Throughout the book, he kept bringing that up, and Bailey kept bringing that up too, because she knew that he had said that and that's what he believes. But it just was kind of all over the place in my opinion, and I don't think that it really made sense. Like, that whole issue did not need to be in the book at all, and it would have worked out just fine. The way that these characters thought about romance and relationships, it felt very middle school to me, not necessarily high school. They are 17 in this book, but I just felt like I was reading about 13-year-olds who are having their first crushes and they don't know anything about relationships. I wasn't really a fan of the romance in this book, but I will say that the whole subplot with Bailey's family and how she's navigating her life with her family and herself, that was absolutely fantastically done. She had so much growth with herself as a character and how she felt about her mom's new boyfriend and what she is going to end up doing with her life and how things are going to change for her because of this whole new relationship. I loved how she went through that and the realizations that she had as time continued on. That was my favorite part about this book. I did give this a 3 stars just because I didn't like the romance, but I did like everything else. There was also another thing with her friend that she had a little bit of a romance subplot that we got to know about. She did something unforgivable but was forgiven, and I don't like when that happens. I know they're young and I know they're in high school and you're more prone to make mistakes with relationships in high school. I still just don't think her subplot should have ended that way. Those are my issues with the book, but I did really enjoy this. I would recommend this still. I just think it's very wholesome. Okay, those are all the books that I read throughout the month of October. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me while I share my thoughts and opinions. I always like to share my favorite book at the end of the month, so my favorite for this month was definitely Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. I am so excited to read another book by her. I loved her writing and I loved the vibes that her books gave off. Let me know what your favorite read of October was. I will see you in my next video, whatever that may be. I hope you have a great day and a great night wherever you are, and I'll see you later. Bye.